Okay, welcome back. I hope you had a very nice lunch break to enjoy the OECD canteen or bar. My name is Stefano Marta. I am the head of unit for smart and sustainable cities. And I'm really happy to moderate this third session of the roundtable that is on leveraging artificial intelligence for sustainable urban development in cities of all sizes. As we know, as we also discussed a bit this morning, artificial intelligence can offer a powerful tool to optimize infrastructure, public services and resources, and to tackle some of the most pressing urban development issues. However, the uptake of AI technology does not automatically contribute to sustainable urban development. There are some data, some research that tell us, for example, that AI may act as an enabler for almost 80% of the SDG target, but can also have a negative impact on 35% of the SDG target. So this is what we want to discuss today with a focus on cities of all sizes. So how cities, how big cities, but also small and medium-sized cities can benefit from AI. We'll start this session with a great keynote speech. And I'm really happy to introduce Guido Rink, who is the European Committee of Regions Rapporteur on the AI Act, and is also the Vice Mayor of the Municipality of Emmen in the Netherlands. Guido, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here and allowing me to speak about my favorite topic, artificial intelligence. First of all, let me explain. I'm Guido Rink. I'm a vice mayor of the municipality of Emmen, and I'm a member of the Committee of Regions. And for those who don't know what the Committee of Regions is, it's an assembly that advises the European institutions on laws that affect EU cities and regions, and it's politicians only. So there's to make it clear what kind of assembly it is. Yeah, I have written 2 reports on the AI Act last years, and I'm currently writing a co-writer in 2 reports as it comes to artificial intelligence. And so you know a little more about me, but I'm also curious about you, and I want to get to know you a little bit more because, AI is not an abstract concept and it's not a vision of the future. It is here and now, and it's changing our daily lives, our cities, and our society. And now you know who I am, and I want to get a little bit more about you. And let's raise hands. And so raise your hand. Raise your hand when you often use AI assistant like Siri, Google Assistant, or Alexa to manage your daily tasks. Okay. Then raise your hand when you use ChatGPT plugins to improve your daily life. That's a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. And when raise your hand when you've ever made a decision based on AI algorithms. That's okay. Now we know each other a little bit more. ChatGPT is common, I suppose. Okay. Thanks. And I think that we all understand that the development of AI are exponential. And since OpenAI, we already saw it, they opened their chatbot GPT at the end of 2022, and everyone suddenly became aware of the ease and the infinite possibilities of AI. But for example, it took 16 years for people to embrace the mobile phone. Social acceptance of ChatGPT took only 2 months. So that's the way it works. And it seems that every day there is a new breakthrough in AI, but awareness of the threats posed by AI is also rapidly growing. And as a result, AI has become a major priority in every city, every county, and certainly in Europe. And to come back to my last question to you about the AI algorithms, making decisions based on AI, I want to tell you a bad example in the Netherlands. And we have great examples they talk about this, later on, but we also have bad examples, and we have some lessons learned. things can go terribly wrong when we fully rely on algorithms and there's no human assessment or judgment. So until 2021, our tax and custom administration used automatic systems to detect possible fraudsters. And these systems used algorithms that looked over risk profiles among people who are applying for childcare allowance. However, they used biased data. This led to certain groups of parents, such as people with lower incomes, or being flagged as suspicious, and much more often than with higher incomes. These parents were being more than usual singled out for rigorous checks and recoveries without good reason. And in addition, the use of this AI system left hardly any room for human review and correction. The decisions of the algorithms were taken for granted, without thorough testing or understanding of the personal circumstances of those parents. This had devastating consequences. Allowances were stopped, reclaimed, and the parents sometimes had to pay back tens of thousands of euros at once. As a result, many families got into serious financial trouble, were sometimes evicted from their homes, and were in debt for years. This is undeniable the dark side of AI, and a very good example of the need for an AI Act, a European AI Act. To make sure that AI systems used in the EU are safe, transparent, traceable, and do not discriminate, it should be based on valid data. That AI systems should have transparent algorithms to prevent harmful outcomes when it comes to our citizens, and that we absolutely need human judgment or assessment on output to make it right and just decisions. So you can't just leave the development of AI to the market. There's no other way. This needs government regulation. But first, let's also look at the enormous social opportunities that AI offers. For example, to make our cities more sustainable and pleasant to live in, AI can be used to make cities smarter. We already heard it this morning, and more efficient. Thinking of improving traffic flows, which not only saves time and frustration, but also reduces the CO2 emissions. Smart traffic lights and traffic management systems that use AI can help to reduce congestion and make public transport more efficient and more safe. Think about how AI can help optimize energy consumption in buildings, helping us use less energy and reduce our carbon footprint. Also, on an economical level, AI can also mean a lot. Through AI, new companies and startups can emerge, creating jobs and innovations. AI can also help us work more efficiently and discover new opportunities, resulting in sustainable economic growth. AI is becoming an increasingly important element in science. Where scientists used to spend months analyzing data, a robot with artificial intelligence does it at lightning speed. In healthcare, AI is used to analyze medical images and detect diseases such as cancer at an early stage. But AI also plays a role in public safety. Think of cameras and sensors hanging in a park. Based on data, street lighting can be dimmed or brightened by means of use of mobile phones and social media in order to prevent unwanted or criminal situations in cities. As I said in the beginning, the development of AI is exponential. The possibility of AI are enormous, but so are the threats and the risks. And therefore, we have the Artificial Intelligence Act. And with this act, Europe has opted for a human-driven approach of AI, not data-driven, human-driven. And where everyone can benefit from AI, and at the same time, the privacy, values, and rights of you, me, and all the citizens of Europe are guaranteed. So where is it all about? AI systems and applications that restricts people's free choice, that manipulate or that discriminate, will be banned. These are systems which entail social scoring or predictive policing. The development of applications for facial recognition will also be banned. That are the unacceptable risks. Then the AI systems that fall into high-risk group are subject to strict obligations in the areas of risk management, the quality of the data used, technical documentation and registration, transparency and supervision. Think of systems that are used to determine access to education or the labor market, but also software that determines whether or not someone receives social benefits or the automated processing of asylum applications. And then the low or no risk systems, they are like chatbots or the creation of text and images, are subjected to a number of transparency obligations. And if an organization deploys these types of systems, people must be informed about it. And then the role of local governments in applying, in applying human-centered AI, legislation alone is not enough. Local governments and regions play a crucial role in how AI is used in practice. We are the closest to our citizens. We understand best what's going on in our cities. We need to make sure that AI is used to improve the quality of life of our citizens. And we need to make sure that AI systems are transparent and that residents know how their data is being used. Also, local governments are the drivers for this innovation because we can promote the development and deployment of technologies in various areas, such as energy efficiency, transport, or public services. We work together with innovative companies, startups, universities, and civil society organizations on solutions that really contribute to a better city or smarter communities, as Mr. Gray mentioned. We can invest in education and awareness of our citizens and businesses. And as a local government, we have a leading role in advancing human-driven AI. We need to not only embrace the technology, but also involve the people in the decisions we make. So we have to make it clear and transparent. By using AI responsibly, we can create cities that are smarter, more equal, and more inclusive. And then my final conclusion, the possibilities of AI systems are becoming unprecedented. AI supports us in making better policy through effective data analysis, monitoring, and predictions. But it should always be based on valid data, transparent algorithms, and human assessment on output. I say, let's work together towards a future where AI helps us meet the challenges of our time and where technology contributes to the well-being of all. Together, let's make sure that the AI revolution has a positive impact on our citizens, our cities, and our society. And we can develop talented communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Guido, for this introduction, for presenting the European Act on AI. I think we'll try to take a couple of questions for Guido. Let's see if there is anyone that would like to raise his flag and ask something while we wait for someone. There's someone there? No. While we wait for someone, my question would be, so as you represent the Committee of Regions, that is a mix of regions and also local government, is there a discussion there on how regions can support cities, in particular the small and medium cities in advancing with the AI development?
Yes, we're all talking about how to provide knowledge, because knowledge in government and especially local government is not that high as the experts. Yeah, we have a couple of cities, again, from the Netherlands, they have really great experts. But no, it's, yeah, it's difficult because all cities and regions, they are so different. So there's no blueprint on it. And so we're looking right now, one of the reports is going to be about how to implement AI in local government. So that's really happening now. And yeah, when we have the results about that, we can give them to you. But yeah, it's 300 members of 27 unions, so it's really diverse. And the biggest discussion about AI is the definition of AI.
We have a question from UN Habitat first, and then from the Association of Cities of Austria.
Thank you very much. I very much welcome this sort of careful approach being taken by the European Union countries and the European Union itself to ensure that the right sort of safeguarding is in place when in the conversation around AI. But we've also saw, the evolution of OpenAI, which started as a very ethics-based entity, which released ChatGPT and then suddenly had a complete management change, and we then brought people like Larry Summers and other people onto the board, which were champions of sort of deregulation, etc. So, do you fear that things could, can set off with good intent, and there's a danger that the commercial forces then become predominant? Sorry to be a bit provocative on this, but I think it is a fear held by many people. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. At first, I think every application is made with the right purpose. But when an application with the right purpose comes in hands of people who want to do wrong, then we have to have the regulations. And that's with open AI, I think, yeah, it's really hard to set boundaries or like that. So yeah, it depends on how it will evolve and how we can react, but we're always late.
Then we have a question from the Austrian Association of Cities and Towns, please.
Yes, thanks. First of all, to your work at the committee, as we are also member in the committee. Just maybe a simple question, not easy to answer. Who is going to decide up in the risk category? I can't imagine a colleague in a small or medium-sized city to decide about the risk level of a program or application.
It's a simple question, difficult answer. Now, I think like GDPR, there will be an overall agency watching the legislation and regulation, and I hope they manage it very quick to build an agency like that, because yeah, when it comes to human-driven AI and protecting our citizens, then we have to be quick. And it's not up to me, but I can give an advice, and that's the thing I do.
We also have a question from the city of Munich, please.
Thank you very much for the information. But have you ever thought in a discussion about the competences of the people using AI? As we heard, a lot of people use it, but I'm sure not everybody is keen on knowing what he's doing when using AI in all the consequences. Have you any discussion about this topic?
Yes, of course, but I have only 10 minutes to present something here. We also discussed about gender equal studies for AI and to promote it. Yeah, also more females in AI, and I'm happy to see a lot of yeah, females here in this room. So yeah, it's always in discussion, because we know the one country is not the other country as it comes to yeah, wisdom without yeah, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean, the educational levels of the people. And so that's, yeah, the expertise is not everywhere, and we really discussed about it, because the small and medium-sized cities we heard are in lack of expertise versus the bigger cities.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Trade, please.
It's good. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation. My question is, what's the vision about the European Commission vision about AI to sustainability, and considering many factors involve a smart city?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Yeah.
The mic.
I have an own opinion, but it's not the opinion of the Committee of Regions. It's like we're with 300 members in the Committee of Regions. And I think when we talk about sustainability, yeah, we all know AI, for example, also uses a lot of energy, and we have to think about that. Because of Bitcoin versus the IOTA protocol, you can imagine, so are a lot of data warehouses and warehousing. It's costs a lot of energy and water, and so as it comes to sustainability, I have an opinion on it, but it's not the opinion of the European Committee, because that's something we're now working on. So that's for now. I hope it's an answer to your question. Yeah, discussion about
the mic.
Oh.
Sorry, can you use the mic? Otherwise online, I cannot hear you.
It's good. Yeah, and that's about opinion. It's about position, considering the many points you talk now, like data, energy, technology, consumption, and etc. What the position of the not so opinion. On opinion, we all have an opinion about this, but the position of the European Community.
Yeah, it's always about positions, and when you have positions as a committee as a whole, you have to have a report, and the reports are not ready yet. So there's no position right now. We're all thinking about it and discussing about it, and I think the way I think, but there are people thinking otherwise. So that there's no position on it right now from the European Committee, because there's a report now going on, and it will be appointed, I think, in December or something like that. And then we have a position as a Committee of Regions.
Oh. Sorry, not easy with the mic. And we'll now move to the panel. We have a very rich panel discussion. We have a representative from local government, regional government, national government from Europe, Latin America, and representative from the private sector that were also called this morning during other session. We have Clemens Himpel, the CEO of the Vienna City Administration from Austria. We have Marcel Dufuis, the program manager of the Digital Twin from Utrecht in the Netherlands. We have Juliana Augusto Cardoso, the Deputy Secretary of Economic Development from the state of São Paulo in Brazil. Online, we have Carlos Alberto Barreto Nieto, who is Senior Counselor for Digital Development Directorate at the National Planning Department of Colombia. And here we have from MasterCard, Pagona, Zorn Patsudi, I hope I pronounce it well, and Hubert Beroche, that is the founder of Urban AI in France. So let's start immediately. I will ask to really stick to the 3 minutes so we can do 2 rounds of intervention, because we have more panelists than in the morning. Let's start with the city of Vienna. So Clemens, we know that Vienna is known as a global pioneer when it comes to smart city and in particular to AI. What is the role of AI that is playing in the local administration? Could you give us some examples?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Since 2009, Vienna has repeatedly been ranked as the most livable city in the world, and we want to stay a very livable city. And so the central claim of our smart city strategy remains the same: a high quality of life for all Viennese with the greatest possible conservation of resources through social and technical innovations. And the current challenges facing the city of Vienna, and presumably other cities too, are enormous, and I can only give a brief outline. First is urban growth. Vienna has grown by 350,000 inhabitants in the past 15 years. This poses challenges for the infrastructure. We have the demographics. 21,000 employees will retire from the Vienna City Administration within the next 8 years, which is around a third of the workforce of the city administration, including the hospitals. It's not a shrinking population, as we heard from Professor Nishiyama today, but a huge amount of retirements, which will be hard to replace. Third, the economy is also weakening due to the consequences of the high inflation. And fourth, climate change is having a massive impact on the cities. We had 53 tropical nights in Vienna city center this year. And you may have seen in the news a terrible flooding in the eastern part of Austria, including Vienna. Vienna was largely spared thanks to a unique flood protection system with the Danube Island in the center, but the situation around Vienna is still dramatic. And fifth, just to mention it, security and cybersecurity is an issue. We heard by Anthony Townsend today about the rising awareness when it comes to cybersecurity. And Gorey Gray mentioned the social networks in session 2 leading to fake news and so on. So the challenges are enormous, and artificial intelligence should help to solve these problems. To cope with population growth and the wave of retirements, the city administration must become even more efficient. AI can help here, for example, with knowledge databases, text generation, and the transcription of spoken words. Translation, image descriptions, for example, in the lost and found property service, and many other automated processes. Second, the effects of climate change must be mitigated. AI can help here too. I was just in Rome yesterday at the European Space Agency to talk about how satellite data can be used in conjunction with artificial intelligence for cities, for example, for heat islands, green space planning, solar potential in cities, etc., etc. In Vienna, together with the federal government, we have set up an innovation lab that will test the use of satellite data in urban areas for the next 5 years. 3, all regions and endeavourings have to use try to use technology to keep the economy competitive. We heard that from Guido Ring just in his speech just before. And to mention it, AI is a heavy tool for hackers, and on the other hand side, on the defending systems in the city IT departments. So technology can help us a lot, also artificial intelligence. This is why the city of Vienna published a compass for dealing with generative artificial intelligence in the workplace over a year ago. We explicitly authorized to use, but data protection laws also apply here. The results do not belong to the technology, but to the person in charge, and the use of artificial intelligence must be labeled. So more general, there are a lot of fields we can use artificial intelligence, and I will just come to one other topic because you ask about the ethics as well, and 3 minutes is very, very short time. But I will give you an example how difficult this topic is, and I would like to thank Guido for his work in the Committee of the Regions. I think it was a lot to do. But this is also with regard to cloud technologies and artificial intelligence. And maybe this is an European debate. I'm not aware about regulations across the continents. But if software soon will be able to translate patient conversations more or less error-free, then the following questions arises in terms of digital humanism. Do we want to allow sensitive health data to end up in the cloud if necessary? Or do we want to allow foreign language speakers to know precisely about their state of health? And I know there is a number of organizational measurements to minimize the risk here, but I would like to plead for a great deal of pragmatism. And one of the potential solutions is value-based engineering, where you try to write these two ethic problems and come to a solution. I think I stressed my 3 minutes, and I'm happy for the debate.
Thank you so much for this, for providing these very key points in 3 minutes. We'll come back to you in the next round with some other more concrete inputs. Now we are moving to the city of Utrecht. It was mentioned already by Guido. So we would like to know how the city of Utrecht is using AI for sustainable urban development, which are the main challenges, and how you manage to overcome them. And then in the second round, I understand you can mention a very specific tool that the city has developed on AI. So you have the floor, please.
It's not a big story what we are going to tell in Utrecht about experience with AI, but I'm going to start a discussion. Now, the story I have to tell, I think almost 4 years ago, we started with developing a digital twin for urban planning in Utrecht. And we worked already together in a quick time with Amsterdam. And we started that development as 2 cities. We didn't have a lot of experience with using a game engine to develop a digital twin. And when we were, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years in that development, we had already a very nice digital twin based on urban planning. But then we get the first questions about the ethical part and the privacy part. So and we were only developing by technology. So we had a very fast experience with the digital twin. But when we started with the ethical part, is it necessary or is it possible to show every information in a digital twin? Yeah, we said from our perspective, in the technical perspective, yes, you can show everything. That's not an issue. And now we get the same discussion, I think, with AI, and we see it as a chance. We don't have so much experience with AI in the digital twin. But the first 4 years, we hired experts to develop our digital twin because we don't have that knowledge in our organization. But now we have the first experience with AI, and it can help us in a very good way to test all the code we're using. We program in Unity and in C#, and AI can help us a lot, and we can test with AI to develop our digital twin in another way. So, and we started our digital twin with urban planning, and now with sustainability issues. Yeah, we can use, we don't know how, but we can use AI to get further with this technology. So, and I think there's also a point that we can't do it ourselves. We need the private companies to help us, or we need to make a connection with the universities to help us, because we don't have that knowledge in-house. Not the big municipalities in the Netherlands, and also not the small municipalities. But I think this is a point that we can make a connection with other big cities, but also with universities, to find out how can AI help us to develop in some way our digital twin technology using AI.
Thank you very much, Marcel. And we'll go back to the AI specific tool that the city has developed. I'm happy to go to Brazil with Juliana. Juliana, can you explain us how the state of São Paulo is supporting cities of all sizes, the big one and also the medium and small one with AI? We discussed during lunch some of the great tools that the state has been implementing. So you have the floor, Juliana.
Thank you, Stefano. But first, only to let you know that the state of São Paulo is quite big. We have 46 million people, and we represent almost 32% of Brazil's GDP. So we are almost a nation itself. But previously, we had to understand the major problem that we have, and there is unemployment. So that's why in our department, we started to create, and is under development, a platform where we are working on job placement. So first, we have to understand the individual. So it's important for us to collect data to create their CVs, to understand their abilities, their soft skills, whereas the private sector give us the job vacancy, and then we are going to match. So that this might be a very good way for us to understand not only the private sector behavior, but also the opportunities for us as a state to provide job training. So we really have to understand the individual. So we are using AI to make those match in a better way, of course, but also to understand better where we, the state, have to work on with the private sector, or even to help the individual to grow. So majorly, we call this public policy as a predictive inclusion. So this is the first one and is under development, as I mentioned before. But for you have an idea, we attend at least 1 million people yearly who are seeking for jobs. And we take from the private sector around 350,000 job vacancy, where we only place around 30%. So again, this platform can help us to foster these job placements. So secondly, we are working on a different platform for reducing bureaucracy, where a company who are willing to open up and to get those licensing, we have worked with a public policy that is called economic freedom, that is run by the federal level, and we have created our state level, like the subnational. And then now we are working with the mayors as well and the cities to promote a better environment. So this means that we are kind of clustering or classifying the economic activity throughout different risk, considering sanitation for the buildings and facilities on the point of view of the firefighters, and also for environmental licensing. So everything that is considered low risk, they don't have to find and to get a licensing to start their activities. So for medium risk, they do have to provide some document for us, and we are going to read these documents throughout AI in order to make the process faster. So we are going to improve the bureaucracy throughout this new platform. So this too will be launched this year or in the beginning of next year. So we're willing to give you good news in the next session. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliana. We'll go back also to you in the second round with more details. And now I'm happy to go to Colombia, where we have a representative of the national government, Carlos Alberto. Carlos, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you, Stefano. Good morning.
Yes, can hear you. So can you explain us, Carlos, what is the DNP, the national government in Colombia, doing to support cities of all sizes to use AI for sustainable urban development, which are the main policy, the strategy that the government is implementing?
Yes, about the question, the measures that have been implemented by the national government of Colombia to promote the use of technologies such as AI in small cities and territories are based on a first key element, which is help them build a strategic vision. This begins with raising awareness about the potential of digital technologies as a tool for territories to face their urban and rural challenges with a vision of sustainability. A first step in this direction is for territorial entities to design and implement a connectivity and digital transformation strategy at the territorial level and include it in their local development plans. This is kind of a strategic approach. And so to this end, a guide was created for the inclusion of digital topics in the local development plans for all territorial entities. And this guide presents a brief presentation of the main initiatives of the ICT sector in terms of AI and how they can be brought to the territory. So it's relevant for smaller cities and territories to advance in the use of technologies such as AI, is there to use it to solve local challenges. This progress requires the decisive support of the national government and, for example, small cities in Colombia, which are approximately 90% of the total municipalities in the country, require support from the national government and other sources to advance a smart city strategy. An example is the historic city of Santa Cruz of Mompox on the banks of the Magdalena River, which with the support of the Ministry of ICT and the government of Bolívar, made investment in technology to promote tourism, improve mobility, security, among others, challenges, local challenges. So that is important for us to understand the potential use of AI to understand and solve the local challenges. We understand generative artificial intelligence make it possible to monitor the use of available resources in these kind of cities. For example, expansion and conservation land is not permanently measured. The growth of the urban footprint occurs in short periods, and AI allow us for a real-time diagnosis of these monitoring polygons used by cities to measure this expansion. In this sense, monitoring the creation of, for example, illegal neighborhoods is easier using images that identify invasions and measure the size of the damage in the real time. That's the kind of possibilities that we understand is available for small and territories. And we try to understand these possibilities in this way.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for this input. We'll come back to you also in the next round. Now, I'm really pleased to hear also from the private sector. This morning, there were some questions on what is the role of the private sector for digitalization. So in this case, we'd like to ask Pagona from MasterCard, how can the private sector help cities, and in particular the small cities, with artificial intelligence? And what is MasterCard doing on this field? Which lesson can you share with the other participants?
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody today. And I'm very happy to respond to this question, because I definitely think that the private sector has a key role to play in supporting city governments with sustainable developments using digital technology and artificial intelligence. At MasterCard, for example, we have a long history partnering with city governments and the businesses and communities they serve in a different context of projects, starting from urban planning and generating insights on commerce and tourism, to dealing with natural disasters like a hurricane. During COVID, for example, we offered recovery insights to governments and businesses with respect to what is the economic situation, and help them plan for economic recovery. And more recently, we've also worked with the city of Warsaw on an online, data-driven, innovative tool to help the economic inclusion of Ukrainian refugees in Poland. And I'm mentioning these examples essentially for one single reason, just to show the opportunities and the fact that opportunities are endless. Now, lessons from us, and what I think that should happen here, for sure, all of us should work together, starting from the public sector and the government to the private sector, academia, and civil society. And I think we should concentrate our efforts on 3 areas. First, we should drive interoperability in global principles and standards and regulatory approaches on AI. We heard earlier the remark that what is the definition of AI? What is AI? And it's been amazing to see the OECD definition of AI and the fact that it has been picked up by many countries globally when they're looking to legislate AI. For example, the EU AI Act is taking the OECD definition of AI as a starting point. But I don't think the journey should stop there. Having consistency in standards and regulatory approaches will help us all, because we need to have the same language to speak about AI, the principles that are important, and where we want to drive our efforts. Number 2, I think it's time to accelerate research and investment in building AI responsibly. We're talking about sustainable development. I cannot believe we can build AI sustainably if we're not thinking about data responsibility. And there's a lot of technologies that can help that, starting from sharing data in a trusted way, or what is called pets. And I'm not talking about cats and dogs here. This also stands as privacy enhancing technologies. I think we don't mention the example earlier with how things went wrong in that example of bias penetrating the algorithm, the fraud algorithm, and what happened there. And there are technologies today that can help there. And for sure, they can maximize the benefits while minimizing data risks. And the last point that I want to make, we should explore the potential of regulatory sandboxes with respect to enhancing trust and scale in public and private partnerships. So having cities with private sector work together on innovative ideas and projects that may sound a little crazy and a little innovative, but do that in a safe and controlled space in a regulatory sandbox while this happens, guidance from regulators. I will leave it here, and I think I'm good on time, right?
Yes, you are perfect. Thank you so much also for this very concrete proposal on how public and private sector can work together on AI. Last but not least, we have our friend Hubert Beroche from Urban AI, that is often participating in our event, and we already had a session on San Sebastian on how artificial intelligence can help to achieve the sustainable development goals in that case. Today, can you tell us, in particular, given the focus of this event, how small cities in particular can benefit from AI for sustainable urban development based on your experience and your work, Uber?
Sure. Do you hear me? Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Stefano. Thank the OECD for the invitation. It's a great pleasure being here. So just a few words about Urban AI, who we are. We are a global organization dedicated to urban artificial intelligence. So this is a concept we coined like 5 years ago. And I would say that really our mission is in our name. Like what we do at Urban AI is basically urbanizing AI. So it means how do we make AI fit with cities? Sometimes when I'm saying this, it can seem quite abstract, but here I'm with a lot of cities. So I'm sure when I'm saying how we make AI fit with a municipality, with your implementation, with your people, you see what I mean. Maybe to answer your question, Stefano, just one thing before. What we are standing for at Urban AI, it's really AI plurality. We believe strongly that cities are a place of freedom. You all know it much more than me. They are the political arena where freedom and liberty can happen. And the worst thing that can happen to a city is being used by an artificial intelligence. And why I'm saying being used by an AI, I don't mean I'm not giving awareness to artificial intelligence, but I'm giving political attention to artificial intelligence, because we know now that those technologies, they have a political dimensions. They are not neutral, they are instruments of power. And I will give maybe just a very simple example, very tangible example. Some scholars observed that a few months after the release of ChatGPT, they had a boom suddenly of some words on the web. Suddenly, some words were overused on internet. Those words, maybe you know it, are vibrant, embark, crucial, delve, navigating the landscape. It's important to note. So why did we have this boom? Because ChatGPT was overusing some words. So maybe if you see some words now, those words in your mail, you will know that it's been written by a generative AI. But basically what it means, it also that this technology is masking other words. And we know that those words, they are saying something, they have political dimension. So it's not neutral. So what we always say to our cities, to our partners is first thing is about knowing what you want to do with technology. You know, the most advanced technology, the most advanced cities, but I think we said it this morning, they are not the ones that have the brightest technology. They are the ones that have the strongest value. What do you want to do with AI? Do you want to become smart city, safe city? Do you want to enhance participatory planning? This is really the crucial question. And then when you know what you want to do with the technology, there is this question. So, okay, now I know who am I know who I am, I know what I want to do. Next, what? And here, what we recommend again is to find the others, okay? Now that you know your value, now that you know collectively what you are standing for, then find other organizations. It can be private organizations. Find other cities that have the same value that you, because collectively, you can implement this vision. And I will give maybe 2 examples, very different. The first one is that we are building for the metropolis of Paris a network of 131 municipalities dedicated to urban AI. And by building this network, all those municipalities with different sizes, they have access to high-level expertise. They have access to a lot of services, framework that they couldn't offer otherwise. So you are mutualizing expertise. But maybe I have another more extreme example, because we are talking about size and the metropolis of Paris. Some of you might say it's a big city, so it doesn't really count. But there is a small city in France called Seine-et-Port. So you might not know it because it's only 2,000 inhabitants. So it's very small. And a few months ago, this city, they said, we are forbidding smartphone in public space. We no longer want smartphone and screens in public space. Why this? Because we believe that this small technology in our pocket is breaking, is destroying our social fabric and our city and our children and our next generations. And a lot of people, they were smiling, they were mocking, like, but you cannot do this, but how can you create smart city without smartphones? But at Urban AI, we were like, actually, this is a super interesting vision, building screenless cities, using AI, not in our screen, but to remove screen, to create new interaction with cities. And now we are building an international network dedicated to screenless cities with the municipality of Bordeaux, with the municipality of Noisy-le-Grand, with scholars from Columbia University, from the City Lab of Berlin, from Amsterdam. So worldwide people, they are working on this vision for a very small city, 2,000 inhabitants, that had the courage to say, we don't want screen in our municipality. And what we say is, you are right. And if you have the network, even if you are a small village, you can implement your vision.
Super. Thank you so much, Hubert. Very interesting example. So we are finishing now, concluding the first round of intervention. Before going to the second round, I would like to see if there is any question for the panelists from the participant. If there is any city that is considering implementing a similar solution that the one Hubert just mentioned, or there is any question on online. So a few minutes to see if there is any intervention. Lisa, you have the floor and you can introduce yourself.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Yes. It's just a short story. I've just been talking to Hubert during the lunch break, so we already know each other. And I can share that we in Gelsenkirchen, we are a city in Germany, and we are actually at the moment implementing a project where we share our resources that we have. It's a quite huge amount of national funding from the national project that Ms. Mitterhuber just talked about. We are sharing it with cities all over Germany to co-create AI use cases for urban regeneration and urban planning, climate planning topics, etc. And the kind of response that we received from cities all over Germany was amazing. So we published a call for to submit as expressions of interest to actually develop AI use cases with us. And the call was only opened for 2 weeks. And we received more than 130 expressions of interest. And later we had a short period of co-creation workshops where AI experts facilitated workshops with participants from many different cities in Germany. And after these workshops, we received more than 60 developed use cases that we are at the moment screening, and we will select some of them and implement them and stay in a very transparent transfer and discussion process with all this city network that has now developed. And what we take away is that there's a huge interest in cities, actually. We were really surprised by this. We thought there would be much more anxiety or worry, but people in cities actually want to apply AI, and it's actually a kind of a network that they're asking for, as well as for a good consultancy offer that takes public and city interests or needs in account. And so that's just what I can share from Gelsenkirchen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this experience from Gelsenkirchen. Any other intervention before we go to the second round? Please, Smart City Council, you have the floor. The mic.
Thanks. One question, Guido, when you're looking at building a framework for something like AI, you normally look at a matrix of urgent and important. And you talked about the speed at which AI is moving, so we can assume it's urgent. To determine if it's important, you will ask yourself a war game. What's the worst thing that could go wrong normally as a agency or a government. So with a nuclear weapon, it could destroy the planet. So you decide it's important normally. When you sit as a group, how do you see the level of risk? Because as people, we end up with risk reward. We drive cars. It's the most dangerous thing you can do, the most likely way to die. But we make rules about how we make cars, how we build roads, the level of skill you have to operate one. And then there's a little bit of risk left and we insure it. So there's a framework for operation that's as best practices can be. How are you viewing that in an approach to AI to build a framework for regulatory and legislative intervention?
I think that there is already a small framework by abandoning some things we don't want. So, for example, autonomous driving when you're driving a car, that's not allowed. So that's one thing we don't do. So that's with the facial recognition, is the one thing we don't do. Then I think we have the application with high risk, low risk, or no risk. And then for the high risk, we have some regulations for the low risk. But yeah, it's urgent and it's important, but also the knowledge of what is happening is always behind what's happening, because we don't know already the applications of tomorrow. And then when you come to regulation and you have to discuss it with 27 state members, then it's always going to be late. And so I don't know at the moment, because the 1st of August, the AI Act became operative. I think it's the right word. So I think we are already getting up some good examples, some lessons learned, or some successes. But I think we have to manage and monitor, and then we can say it's like a learning approach, I think, because we're always behind, and legislation is always behind because we don't know where it will end, if it ends. And so that's it's not really an answer, but it starts with the beginning, and the beginning is the bending, high risk, low risk, no risk. That's the beginning, and from there we go on, and learning approach.
Thank you, Guido. Thank you very much. Now we can go to the second round of with our panelists. We can start with the city of Vienna, and what I would like to ask to Clemens is how does Vienna ensure that AI applications are environmentally sustainable, considering that many AI technology needs high energy demands? So can you explain us a bit what Vienna is doing on this, please?
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll start with the last question because it perfectly fits with your question then. I told you some examples of what we are doing in Vienna, but the next step we have to do is to implement the governance within the city administration. We did it for the cloud technology, but we have to do it in line with the AI Act for exactly this topic of artificial intelligence. And that's what we are working on. And this also comes to your question. I mean, no one talks about the energy consumption of IT. Not to talk about artificial intelligence, but also search engines, for example. No one talks about that. Of course, it's power. So potentially you can have regenerative energy there. But I think the truth is the other way around, and the same happens in Vienna. We try to shape services for our inhabitants, and of course, if they don't have to go to the office, if they have to apply for something, they spare away. So maybe it's a car drive, maybe it's a walk, maybe it's public transportation. We don't know that. Yeah. And I mentioned before the satellite data. Of course, when it comes to circular economy, that might be very interesting. But the materials, what materials you have, what biomass you have, what potential for green energy you have. These are all technologies you can use for that. But the question, I mean, at the moment, the large language models, I think there's a reason why nobody's talking about the energy consumption. But the debate goes away from the large language models to small language models and to smaller models with better data. And maybe this is one of, I know we are in an OECD context here, not in a European Union context, as well as you are talking about the EU regulations. But this might be really a strength of the European region, that we have good prepared data, good data management, which is prerequisite in every city, that you can use artificial intelligence. Without data management, don't start with artificial intelligence. And then you can use in future, in a not so long future, maybe smaller models, and they have less energy consumption. But to be honest, this is one of the debates within the IT sector we don't really talk about. And there's a lot of debates within the IT sector which we are not talking about a lot, because everybody of us believes that more technology is good. But it's the other way around. We need the best possibility to live for our inhabitants, and where we need some technological tools. I'm looking to you with the screens. Maybe that's a good example. When we need technological tools, we should use it. And if we don't need them, there is no need to use them. Yeah, and same apply with artificial intelligence. Fun? Yeah, same with data, of course. Yeah, and this, I mean, if it comes to data protection, I mentioned before the example with the hospital, because I think it's not so easy to make these decisions. And I'm really looking forward how we can use the Artificial Intelligence Act to implement a governance within the city administration.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Clemens. Maybe there will be some other question at the end for you, but it was really brilliant experience from Vienna. Now let's go back to Utrecht. Marcel, we understand that in the Netherlands there is a platform for 3D visualization in the whole country that is called Netherlands 3D, upon which cities or other users can set up their own AI models. So can you please give us a little bit more information about this 3D visualization model, please?
I think when we started in the Netherlands with Amsterdam and Utrecht, with 3D Amsterdam and 3D Utrecht, and now we were upscaling it to Netherlands 3D, and it's also possible to use it in Europe. But I think when you compare it with the possibilities of AI, now we do a lot of analysis with GIS software in sustainability models, and I think that's a real possibility to use AI to. Maybe it's the next step in GIS analysis to use AI, but it's easy to say for me. But how it works and what do we have to do for that? I don't know. It's a big issue for us. I think on this moment we use AI to speed up programming digital twin functionalities, and I think the next chapter will be how can we solve some sustainability issues with AI. So. Maybe Mr. Wink says we have already a lot of experience in Utrecht, but I'm not sure. So we have a very good experience on this moment, but we are at the beginning.
And do you think this is a model that can be used also by small cities, or it requires higher financial and capacity resources?
Yeah, what we use on this moment is only speeding up development of a digital twin, and that's why we use AI for. So we don't have experience yet with sustainability models in combination with AI. So I can't give you the answer.
Thank you. It'll be interesting to hear also either from the city of Amsterdam how they are using this model, or in other countries there is something similar. Now let's go back to Juliana from Brazil. So Juliana, how do you ensure that the use of AI is in line with people's needs in the state of São Paulo? How do you also track the performance? How do you evaluate the benefit of AI in urban planning in the state of São Paulo?
So first of all, we started with a problem. So we had something to solve. And by doing so and by tracking what was the problem and how we should address, and then we find out that throughout AI, we should do better. So I think the first point was that, and that's why Now we will be able to track their usability and how they respond for the society. So I think we address their problems. So that's the major point. But we do have several other platforms that are that has been run throughout AI, and the other one is for security. So we have like it's called a wall, where the regular cameras for all the cities are connected with our state level police center, where they read up the plates for cars. So they started to read up and to understand what kind of cars were stolen, and then they are kind of recovering right now. So again, we have a lot of data in some sort of areas, not in everyone. Like health, we should improve so much using better data, because first of all, I don't think we were already working with data, but not with valid data, with a very good data to be able to fulfill in artificial intelligence. So I think for now, we should start with collecting a good data, treating and validating this data in order to promote more and to put more technology on it. But for us, it's quite easy in this way because we have an opportunity in these two new platforms that was designed by our department. But I still think there are several other opportunities. So I'm not sure if everybody is aware, but we had a lot of fires now in Brazil, especially in the state, and all of them were criminal. So now we are facing, like, for the 4 last days, we had like the worst air in the world. So again, we have a lot of sensors in the state, but still we don't read those information throughout AI, and we should do that to improve the life quality of people. So yeah, not only looking for data, but also I think we have to improve IoT for all this kind of sensors and to gathering the data to take better decisions. So of course, it will improve people's life, but again, we still have to face we are missing a lot of opportunities in the government. So not only looking for AI, but also looking for data analytics and IoT. So yeah, I think we should work better on it.
Thank you, Juliana. And now we go back to Colombia, to the national government, to Carlos Alberto. So Carlos Alberto, can you please explain us which policy Colombia is putting in place for promoting AI for sustainable urban development, and in particular how you coordinate different initiatives towards AI in your national urban policy? Can you give us some example, Carlos?
Yeah, sure. Other complementary policies are related to strength the enabling conditions for the development of technologies such as AI, and strength smart cities and territory. We summarize these initiatives in 4 dimensions. The first one is technological infrastructure, which is the composed of the 5 technical dimensions: ICT availability, ICT performance, ICT affordability, security, and adoption. In this dimension, Colombia is advancing in the development of a national connectivity plan that seeks the development of ICT infrastructure throughout the country, mainly in rural and remote areas. The second dimension is open governance, which refers to a governance model that actively engages citizens in government decision-making. Colombia is moving forward with public digital transformation with initiatives such as digital citizen services that is important for this kind of technology. Third dimension is to strengthen the intelligent community that it could be understood in the 5 enablers such as eco-consciousness, education, creativity, digital proficiency, for example, skills and awareness of the technology, and social cohesion of citizens. And finally, it's important for us in innovative economy, which is characterized by the urban innovation ecosystem regulatory framework for innovation, and the innovation change broke in industry by the fourth industrial revolution, digitization and artificial intelligence. Colombia currently is in the construction of an AI policy, which is focused on 6 strategic axes, within which we want to highlight an axis of strengthening data and infrastructure and the use of adoption of AI systems to generate a specific solution in territory. That is the main focus of this axe in the policy of AI, which in construction currently in this moment in Colombia. That's that we want to share with you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And now we can go back to the private sector with some consideration that emerge from different interventions. So the issue of data, data management, the ethical and political constraints that we have with the use of data and AI. So Pagona from MasterCard, based on your experience, how could Citi address this ethical and political consideration related to data privacy, data protection, data storage and accessibility, and in particular, how the private sector can help the public sector with the data component of AI?
Thank you. First of all, I totally agree with you that indeed AI raises novel questions and challenges from a political, ethical, since recently also legal standpoint, and a lot of it has to do with how data is collected, managed, used, and shared. Now, one thing that, and of course, we have been speaking a lot about opportunities, and the opportunities are just so many, and for sure a focus for the conversation, but we should also look at the data risks, because the reality is that the more we want to use AI, we may see that this causes anxiety for people. How will people's data, where will data be stored? And how do you make sure that the way it's stored, it's protected with state-of-the-art security measures and end-to-end and across the value chain? And how do you make sure that people understand what happens to the data and you give them control to the data so they can do whatever they feel entitled to, ask what happens with my data, and even have a say how the data is shared? Now, these questions may look simple, but the responses to these questions can be extremely complicated. And I would like to offer some thoughts on how we have been addressing these kinds of questions at MasterCard, which could serve as an inspiration or just as a food for thought in the Citi's context. So at MasterCard, we have developed our data and technology responsibility principles since a while ago. They are sponsored by a CEO, and they drive all our activities to ensure responsible AI at MasterCard. Why this is important? Earlier, we were speaking about going back to our values. So knowing what our values are when we're thinking about AI and sustainable development is extremely important. It's what is going to drive everyone going towards the right direction. And for us at MasterCard, it has been having the individual at the center. Probably similar goals and similar objectives, similar values may exist in a Citi context. So really knowing what our principles are and call them out so we all know what we talk about. Number two, at MasterCard, we have come up, and it's been a while already, with an AI governance framework. And the key word here is governance. So when we're speaking about AI and smart cities, or in whatever context, it's very important to have a way to know how we come together, how we make decisions, how we deal with issues, because issues will come up. It's not going to be everything rosy and amazing. It will be amazing, but it's important to be prepared. So at MasterCard, our AI governance program essentially means that many different disciplines are coming together to solve all these difficult questions that I was mentioning earlier. And we do have an AI council comprised by senior executives that comes together and is consulted every time an AI use case triggers medium to high risk. Now, this is important. And also the council often consults with external experts, academia, and even consumer panels. That's extremely important because that's what helps us bring outside knowledge in. That helps us get an insight to our blind spots. So it's important in a Citi context, whatever we do with AI, to have this way of getting external views to help us with what we don't know, what others may know. And number three, I spoke about pets, privacy enhancing technologies earlier. So at Mastercard, we have been investing on those in the context of AI. Specifically, I'd like to reference synthetic data. Synthetic data is a technology where you essentially create data that look very much like personal, but it's not. You manipulate the data and they give you similar attributes to what real data would do, but they don't in most cases, they're not subject to privacy and ethical concerns because they're fake data. Now, we've seen a lot of utility in these kinds of data because you can analyze and generate insights from that data, but we don't have to deal with the privacy concerns. And aside of that, synthetic data is also very helpful when looking to deal with bias. So basically, bias detection and having ways to really identify and eliminate bias from the data. So these are my three thoughts. One, look back at values and principles. Two, consider how you want to do governance. And number three, consider what technologies you can use to do AI responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very concrete messages again. I will see if there is any reaction from the public sector in the room. Last but not least, again, we go back to Uber. Based on your experience working in particular with French cities and municipalities, Uber, what strategy can be implemented to mitigate some of the potential risk or negative effect of AI that we heard during this session, including exacerbating inequalities or the impact on the environment and so on? We have some recommendations.
Yeah. So maybe as a kind of initial observation, I will start to say, so maybe to join what was said earlier by Pagona. Pagona, thank you. Is the fact that it's especially important, especially for this question, to observe that there are different AI. Because when you are talking about risks, you don't have the same risk at all when you are talking about an LLM, when you are talking about adversarial network, when you are talking about machine learning, and even within machine learning about federated learning, all those models, they have their own risks. And sometimes, this is perfectly exemplified earlier, they can be complementary. So you can use synthetic data, for example, for privacy issue. And some cities, they are doing this. So it's really important to be aware of what is AI, and that behind this you have different kind of AI. There is something that is quite striking. You know, the scholar, don't remember his name, I can find it after. He said we are talking about AI like we are talking about vehicles. You know, if I'm saying a vehicle is dangerous and a vehicle is emitting a lot of CO2, you can tell me, okay, but which vehicle? Because it's true for a car, but it's not true for a bike. It's not so. You really have to do this effort of defining different typologies of AI. Then if I should still give a kind of general recommendation based on some French example, and I will draw inspiration from an ongoing project we are doing with the city of Nantes, I would highly recommend to include as much as possible different people, and to create deliberation. And this is what we are doing with the city of Nantes. They are doing 1 year of deliberations. The name of the project is Debating of AI, Nantes Débat d'IA. And so for 1 year, they are organizing a lot of events with different stakeholders. So with citizens, with companies, with academics, with experts. And what you see when they are doing this from our research in the beginning is that you have different narratives, you know, like companies, they are saying something about AI. But society, or let's say citizens, they are saying something else. And at the beginning of such a debate, you have contradiction, you have paradox. And so you see opposition narratives in your municipality. And your goal is to say, how do I bring back those different narratives at the center? Like, how do I make the company talk the same language when we are talking about AI than the citizen, than the academic? And when you achieve this, when you have a kind of common culture, then you are able to say, okay, here are collectively what we want to do against different risks. Here are how we want to stand for to address CO2 emission, all those elements. But maybe my first recommendation, it would be as much as possible, bring different people around the table. You have a lot of different mechanisms, participatory assembly, debating session. There's a lot of civic tools that can be used for this. Use them to make hear as much voices as possible.
Thank you so much, Hubert. So this is we are concluding the second round of our panel. We have about 5-10 minutes for possible question and discussion. So I would like to see if there is any question for our panelists, our keynote speaker. And I see I cannot read until there. Sorry, I think my contact lenses are not strong enough, but you have the floor, please.
Center for Socioeconomic Development. I have a question and also a potential solution for Clemens. You mentioned before how much AI generates the need for electricity, and electricity oftentimes is produced not by renewable energy, as we all know. So the CO2 and the environmental costs are phenomenal to some extent. But we also have the commitments of all of our countries in terms of the nationally determined contributions, as the Paris Agreement. If Vienna has a voluntary local review, I think it could be helpful then to disaggregate where is AI used to serve the citizens and to show how much of that is generating, in fact, need for electricity and second then CO2 emissions. I think that could be quite convincing for citizens to understand that the more they use or the more they ask you to generate services, the more they also have to take responsibilities that this will generate more CO2 emissions. If that's maybe a suggestion to be more transparent about how AI, on one hand, increases services to citizens, and everybody is happy about that. But there is a price to be paid, and I think most consumers just don't know.
Thank you. Clemens, any reaction to this?
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's the way how you have to do it. It's not so easy with the data you have, but that's exactly the topic. I answered the question which came from the OECD, and I'm really happy about this question because this is really one of the topics we are not talking about too much. Yeah, I don't know why Vienna got the question, but I think the problem we have everywhere, and the suggestion you just made is very good. Maybe a second idea of an answer. At the moment, we are talking about artificial intelligence as if it will replace all our pains and suffers from our livings. Yeah, it's like paradise. AI will solve all the problems. And maybe we should start with the basics. And this has also to do with consumption of electricity, the basics of transcription, translation, databases, knowledge databases, and so on. And not trying to find the golden use case which will solve all the problems in Vienna or in other regions. This might be a little bit of a problem. We are on a playground in a way at the moment. And it has to come to be much more serious. And I think the AI Act is one starting point. And of course, the debate of energy consumption is another one.
Thank you, Clemens. Trade, please. The mic, sorry.
Yeah, it's just complimentary about the discussion you have over AI. I totally agree that the elements you exposed. My point is, what do you do when you no longer have access to all this information for this data? For example, in a catastrophe, in natural catastrophe, what do you do? That's, I think, my feeling. We're missing anticipated these events when you talk about data, when you talk about many systems to control the city. Control the health, control all systems in the city.
Thanks for your question. So what do we do for climate adaptation with AI? Or it's more...
The mic, please.
It's more than anticipation, natural disaster, do you know? For you have when you control everything, you control with the data. You need to have a data in some place. If you have an event and you have more natural disaster, what you do if you don't have access of the data? And my point of view is, in many discourses I hear about that, I'm missing to hear anticipation of this, you know? I have impression that many companies and many actors work in the subject, don't anticipate in the situation you are now, in the world you are now. You need to anticipate this point because you have a big risk about that.
So yeah, definitely on this topic, actually, we are doing an ongoing research with Anthony Townsend, who is also part of Urban AI as an expert on the future of Urban AI. This is the name of this exploration. Maybe what I would recommend on this specific topic is to find similar city profiles, so cities that are like you and that are exposed to the same risk. And this, you can know it. So for example, you know, we can see that when you have earthquake issues, so for example, in Tokyo, but also in Mexico and in different cities. So those cities, they are sharing the same risk. So they have the possibility to collaborate together to find common solution. And this is what they are doing sometimes. And by doing so, they are more effective because they join resources. And for example, here they will say, we want to use drone for automated inspection after earthquake. This is relevant for these specific cities, but maybe it's not for, let's say, Paris or for other cities that those are exposed to flooding. So again, it's something it's our DNA at Urban AI to work with network. So that's why I'm always talking about it, but I would recommend definitely to find a network of organizations that have the same issue than you. And on this topic, this is definitely how you can be better at addressing it, especially on Urban AI, which is really a complex topic.
I see another flag there, sorry. Utrecht, please.
No, it's not really a question, but I heard already now some very interesting discussions. And when I talk about urban planning and the experience we have with the digital twin, we just had learned walking in 4 years with digital twin experience. And I think now we need some governance that before we're gonna run with AI. So first we try to walk with the digital twin technology. And then first, I think we need some governance to make the first faster steps. So that's what that's my experience for this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Any question? I would have one we still have 5 minutes for the discussion. I think for me, a very interesting question would be, given that we had both public and private perspective in this session, is in particular for the public representative, the local and regional government and the national of Colombia. Are you working with the private sector on AI? And if not, which are the obstacles and what can be done to improve public-private partnership on AI? Because from what Mastercard in particular was saying, there is a lot of potential for synergies here. Any consideration either from the panelists or from the other participants on that? Please, Guido.
Yeah, thank you. I have to be honest because our municipality is like small or medium-sized, and we are exploring possibilities to work with companies. And it always starts with GDPR, and so we're exploring this. Not ready for how do you say it? We don't have resources yet, so we are exploring. And I think when it comes to development on AI and working together, public and private, you have to trust each other. And I think we're dancing around to getting to trust each other. And yeah, I think the synthetic data is a good alternative, which I will bring home and talk about.
Thank you, Guido. Any other consideration on this point? If not, we are running 5 minutes late, but I really would like to thank all the speakers in the room and online for sticking to the time. Now we can take a well-deserved coffee break, half an hour. We reconvene here at 4 p.m. for the final session. Thank you very much. And please join me with a round of applause for our speakers.